Hello, Mandos, and welcome back to the Book of Vinzer Flinn. It's been a fairly quiet week, so I've been using some downtime to plan some new projects, one of which is templating out a new Iron Man suit to build this year, in the eventuality we actually get to go to a con this year. I'll have some progress shots up on my Patreon as I go this year, and now that I've said it, I have to do it. I've also been catching up on a few shows lately, like Star Trek Discovery, and I really quite like this show, and it's certainly covered a lot of ground for only being in its 4th season. It's very different Star Trek from its predecessors, but different doesn't mean bad, which is something a lot of angry dickheads on the internet should try considering now and then. I'm planning to talk about some upcoming Star Trek such as Picard and Strange New Worlds, which I am especially stoked about, but in the meantime I wrote down a few notes on my impressions on Discovery after 7 episodes in. I'd rather end on positive notes, so I'll start off with the stuff I'm not so crazy about first. So by now, I feel like I can at least put the right names to all the main characters, which is something that kinda took a while after being used to pretty standard casts of 7 main people right from the start. And they change in and out a lot, which isn't a bad thing, just different, but it has slowed me down a little on settling in and loving this crew, though I do now. I think what I mean is that this show moves at breakneck pace from one absolutely gigantic crisis to another so fast and so often, there's barely any time to breathe in between and get to know anyone when they're not being pushed to their absolute limit. This season is dealing with a gravity anomaly so huge it's destroying everything in its path, and the season before we did the major time travel and the burn, which is a thing I still don't love. Everything in this show is a continuous Unicron, Death Star, Galactus level or higher crisis, and yeah, that's Star Trek, but shit man, it'd be nice to have an episode that dealt with something slightly less galaxy shaking. I grew up with TNG, right, so I know that Riker plays the trombone, Picard is into archaeology, and Worf likes prune juice. I feel like I don't know the Discovery crew on that level, at least not yet. Which brings me to the ship itself, which I always think of as a character unto itself. I like the way the Zora AI is coming along. We've had plenty of trying to become human tropes in Star Trek, but this one feels a little more unique and even harder for the character of Zora to achieve. Kinda gives me Edie vibes from Mass Effect. I wouldn't be surprised if they give her a body at some point. But I digress. Where I was going was that the ship feels cold and unfriendly in a way and still victim to the fucking lens flares everywhere. Again, I guess I'm a little biased because I grew up in the Enterprise D, which was like being inside a wall-to-wall carpeted luxury apartment of the 80s. The Discovery's bar area has put in these fireplaces to cozy things up, and maybe it's just me, but open fire on a ship is not comforting to me, which I think I can pin on the Expanse's realistic handling of life in space. My only other gripe for Discovery goes hand in hand with the constant apocalyptic suicide missions every time they leave port, and that of the ship-wide channel to deliver an inspiring speech. Michael or Saru delivers a rousing address extolling the ideals of Starfleet. Woshikun and Detmer look at each other and nod, and they go save the day while the bridge is exploding. It just feels like this happens every day or so, and it's sort of lost the usual excitement when a ship goes to red alert. I guess I'm just a fan of Riker-style, less talk, more action captaining, which is why I'm kind of looking forward to Captain Pike again. Okay, despite all that, I love Discovery. While we don't so much know the characters in their quiet moments as much as I'd like, we sure know how they are in the life or death ones. We see the effects of their adventures with them as they process grief or try to deal with trauma. This is a part of Star Trek that I find excellent in this show. No one can do this job without getting a little fucked up. I felt this was portrayed really well with Detmer last season and with Book this season, both characters I really like. I still find some of Michael's dialogue a little on the pontificating side some of the time, but she's got the kind of money where her mouth is and go get shit done attitude. And I like that, and it's way past time we've seen a black woman captain doing that in Star Trek. And this show does a really cool portrayal of relationships like Stamets and Culber, both of whom are a delight, and more recently Adira and Gray. Now, I'm a 45-year-old straight Gen X white male, so it's not a stretch to think most guys in that category would find both of those relationships very out of the norm and have a hard time with it. But I can honestly say not the case here. I find both of these relationships completely beautiful. And so far this season, Tilly remains one of my favorite parts. I feel like she's the window into this show for a lot of people. She's the most human and relatable, I think. She's anxious and unsure of things and says the wrong thing at the wrong time and curses like a person would. But she also steps the fuck up when shit goes down. Earlier I said how I'd like more of the non-galaxy destroying adventures once in a while, and they did that with Tilly in a recent episode. Just her trying to get some people out of danger at great risk to herself, and it was an episode I really enjoyed. Anyway, the fun thing about Discovery is they're set in the timeline in such a way that they can write a blank slate going forward. Everything can be new and exciting as the Federation is rebuilt, and I dig that. Let me know what you think of it. And now it's time to head to the crew lounge to see Raina, Merida, Kryas, and Maggie and talk about Book of Fett Episode 4, The Gathering Storm.
Aloha.
Oh, greetings.
I love your profile picture.
Yeah, me too. I'm obsessed with what we do in the shadows right now.
And Tilda Swinton is pretty badass.
And I watched the other one the other day, so I'm caught up.
Right. Oh, right. Maggie messaged me. She texted me and was like, Danny fucking Trejo's in this now. All right.
Nice.
Yeah, everything or what? Fucking guy. I think it's because I just watched the episode where in What We Do in the Shadows that he's in it.
Oh, right. I forgot he was in that too.
Fuck,
He really
man.
is everywhere.
He is.
He just shows up. What are you going to do? Tell Danny Trejo he can't be in something? It's terrifying.
Yeah, like, hey, put this on, Danny. Say these lines. Get out.
I think he was a Star Wars fan. Pretty sure.
My first experience with Danny Trejo was when he was in Con Air. That was a first impression for a child.
All right, well, let's get into it. Chapter 4, Gathering Storms. We got a ton of flashback fill-in-the-blank stuff here, which I thought made this episode really good. Like, it kind of filled in all those gaps we wanted to see from the other perspective when the Mandalorian was fighting Fennec and shit like that.
And it explained how he and Fennec kind of ended up with each other, too.
Yeah.
Which was
It
nice.
really tied together the timeline. Now we
Yes.
know that he was with the Sand People for like 5 years-ish.
So he goes back and he's scouting Jabba's because he wants to get a ship back. I noticed that they did not use the old Slave 1 name of the ship. He actually said Fire Spray. He didn't say if that was the name of it or the type of it, but it's just Fire Spray now. But it's a cool name, so okay.
It's no Slave 1, but...
The thing that really struck me in this episode, which I kind of didn't really pick up on before, is Fett is he's really an animal lover, you know?
This is the note that I have. My second note was, holy cow loves animals.
I thought that was when he sends the Bantha off on its way. I thought that was a little over the top. But Tamir has complained that he thinks that the writers have him talk too much in this show. He thinks he has too much dialogue.
And I can see it up to a point, but I don't know. You're not going to get a whole lot of character development if you never say anything and just keep the Mando helmet on. You look like a badass all the time, which would probably please the neckbeards, but...
Plus, he spent 5 years with Tuskens. He couldn't make their vocal sound, so he probably spent a lot of time just signing. He's had 5 years of being, essentially mute. So, no wonder he's chatty. It's like
Just
a new
been
mom
grunting
when
around.
she goes out for the first time. She's like, hey, how you been? God, just talk to me forever, please. For the love of God, just give me a...
So Fett finds Fennec in the desert and he takes her to this chop shop where all these cyborgs are getting modded out, which apparently is a much bigger subculture in Star Wars than we thought was. At one point Fennec even calls the biker gang the mods. And Courtney and I turned to like, the mod squad? Are they the mod squad?
Well, they called it a mod parlor, which makes sense.
But after that show, I got a text from Angel that just said, does Fennec not need to poop now? And I'm like, asking the real questions as always, Angel.
Obsessed with shit.
Well, does she not need to eat?
That's what I'm wondering. I couldn't help but wonder how sanitary that whole place was, because he basically just replaced her entire stomach, right?
Seemed more than a piercing, really.
And she healed very fast. Like, she was sitting in positions that I was like, you wouldn't have been able to do that.
You're missing your insides.
Yeah, but so she was 100% human when he found her, and then he got fake parts. She's not a robot that he got fixed up, right?
Right. Fennec appeared in a previous Mandalorian season where that character fought her and left, and she got left for dead. And then somebody found her, and we didn't know for the longest time who had found her. And we theorized it could have been Fett, but now we know for sure it's Fett.
I see. Okay. It's all locking in.
So Fett knew who Fennec was, but she didn't know who he was without the armor, but he knew that she was Master Assassin Fennec Shand. So he obviously heard of her before in the business. I got a note here that says, "Make baby banthas." Go make baby banthas.
I have a
Please
note
don't
that,
get eaten.
that Fennec keeps things in her gun because she has no pockets.
She doesn't
So
have
Good.
any pockets.
It's good to see that things have changed.
Like, seriously. She's like, I'm like, while on one hand, it's cool taking off, the stock of your gun and all of your shit's in there. That's cool, but she had pockets.
I enjoyed her little seeker droid. That was really cool.
Yeah, it was all cool.
Somebody did point out, why on earth would you make the stealthy spy droid glow red? Have a bunch of big old red lights on it.
Yeah, valid point.
I want all of her toys.
Oh, of course. I want her rifle. I want her scope. I want her secret compartment in the stock of her gun with droids and knives.
Every time we see new gear in a Star Wars movie or show, we're like, how can we get that in our D&D campaign?
And this is how I ended up with a grappling hook.
Yeah, and that first guy he worked like a charm.
So, worked out, just hadn't really thought that plan through. It's like I will use the grappling hook. Natural 20. Woohoo! I catch them. Now what?
Yeah. Now we drag everyone down the street.
Now we'll water ski.
So, one of the things that did bother me a little bit in this episode was that I don't think Migna should have been able to deal with the Gamorrean guards in melee so easily. If she had shot them, then I totally would have sold it. But Gamorreans are supposed to be big, tough, and very physically powerful. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She's like, kick, punch, go down, and I'm like, okay.
They're known for being like a big dumb warrior race.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the Hutts basically enslaved them. I was reading a thing about somebody posted, why the hell does anybody use Gamorreans as guards? And I ended up reading a bunch of stuff. So it's like in Gamorrean culture, they believe that the rich and powerful deserve to be served. They seek to serve the rich and powerful, and their planet is feudal, levels of technology. So
But they're still not really great guards. It's like, I mean, sure, they're fighty, but they don't seem. They're very reactive. They're not very proactive. If it's like,
Yeah,
oh wow,
good.
the guy's
Why
here
they're
now,
good
we'll
guards.
fight him.
They're
But
not good scouts.
Well,
You
no,
buy a
but-
bunch of them, you give them an axe, and you point them in the general direction of the thing you want to kill, and one of them will make it there and get it done.
I don't know. Again, it just comes back to the fact that, I'm gonna call him Black Chrysanthemum because there we go. It's stuck in my head again. Black Chrysanthemum. Ended up in it was the kids that actually woke up, from what I can tell. Maybe they weren't asleep. I don't know, but everybody else napped through the first part of that. So, and I mean, I recognize we discussed that it would have been fairly easy to sneak in, which is cool, but from a guard perspective, they just kind of ambled over later. I don't know. It was
Yeah, they're the hapless henchmen of the Star Wars galaxy for sure.
I noticed that this episode was very Muppety. That was kind of my big thing. That a lot of the creatures were very Muppety.
The droid cooks I found were like that, kind of gave that feeling. It was fun. It was very fun.
Like the rat catcher.
You know what I couldn't understand about that is when they're going to get the ship back, they're breaking the kitchens. That people are obviously making fun of the cleaver droid, making like a General Grievous with his arms flinging around. But the little mouse rat catcher droid, Fett grabs it and he goes, "Do you know who I am? I'm Boba Fett." And I'm like, "Why are you telling this useless little utility droid that you're Boba Fett?"
Right. You're not telling anybody else. And then the droid goes, ah shit, and turns itself off.
How do you get that button? I could use that.
Maybe you could have used that with the other droids that were trying to kill you. Would that have worked? Like with them? No?
We originally were theorizing what Fett's motives were for doing this and becoming the daimyo?
Daimyo?
Yeah, the daimyo.
Daimyo.
Yeah, the daimyo. So we were looking at why we were trying to figure out why he was doing this. Now that we have his whole backstory, does anybody else feels like it still doesn't make any sense?
I feel like there's still some pieces missing that we need to know about the whole thing.
I think so. And what I don't understand, the one thing, I don't get when they went back to the Sarlacc pit, because I mean, let's face it, this whole revenge thing they went on after they got Slave One was like fucking awesome. But when they got back and he was looking for his armor, why doesn't he remember that he had it on?
He came out wearing it.
He doesn't remember the Jawas at all.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh
I
my
get.
God, yeah, I didn't even put that together.
Yeah, I get not remembering the Jawas took it off, because he was right out of it. But I don't understand why he can't remember he had it on when he was in there, and that's why he doesn't have acid burns over, I don't know, the rest of him.
Let's talk about that. The fire spray sweeping in on the Kinton Striders swoop bike gang, and every fucking neckbeard out there that's upset about Fett not kicking enough ass, he came in straight faced and killed 30 guys, no problem. And when I saw that ship coming in, the background music was actually finally playing his theme song. That's his actual theme song from the guy that did The Mandalorian. It's fantastic. It's this very hard marching, sinister hunting sound. And sure, he did one pass, killed the fuck out of everybody, and then he spent a missile to blow up the leader. That's all. That was.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He did not fuck around. He was he could have hunted them. He could have done anything, but he was just no, that's going to take too fucking long.
They fucked around, so they found out.
They did.
Boba Fett was the guy in the old canon who said, "Don't run, you'll just die tired."
Accurate. And they were just minding their own business on their bikes, and then suddenly and you gotta love the way that, I'll call it the fire spray then. The fire spray flies.
It's a hard habit to break, I know.
It really is. But how it flies, how it gets that kind of weird tip over.
Yes.
It was really cool.
It's a strange ship. Yeah, that cockpit rotates.
Yeah.
It's so hard to figure out. So they take the fire spray, and they head back to the Sarlacc pit, and the ship gets right cockpit into the Mava. And what I was like, Fett should be fucking traumatized by this thing. He's like, nope, sticks his head right back in it. I want my fucking armor. And then of course it attacks and it's a big fight. But even after that, he goes back in there physically himself on a rope and gets all burnt up again.
Burning himself. That's
he
the
just doesn't
thing.
care.
But that's what I don't understand, is why does he not remember he's got his armor on if he's this time it really burned? Why do I not have any from last time?
Yeah, that does seem a bit of a weak writing point. I'm willing to forgive it, but...
Yeah, it was just odd. It's cool that we know why the Bacta tanks know now.
Yes, and as we heard, he's actually healed now. But what I found, a long-standing question got answered because Fennec said it's going to be melted down there, and he said, not Beskar. So we confirm Fett's armor is Beskar, not just Durasteel. So next question, how the fuck did they get a dent in the helmet on a Beskar helmet? What did that? Because I don't think we have a new canon reason for it yet.
The unfinished Clone Wars short, but I don't think that was ever actually canonized. When Clone Wars ended the first time, Dave at Comic-Cons used to go show the previs animations, the stuff that they had 20% done before they got canned. I think so, just the basic blocky animations. And there's one where Boba gets in a duel with Cad Bane, and Cad Bane shoots Boba in the head, and the helmet takes the blast, and that's where the blaster bolt mark, and Boba offs Bane with a headshot. At least that's what it looks like.
That's interesting. If they ever do live action Cad Bane, that could be a thing. He's like, I'll shoot you in the head again.
I would be totally down for live action.
I think they have to do it at some point. I mean, the fans are daring to dream. Like, we got a Boba Fett show, even though some people are bitching about it, but come on.
If you want to be real, like, Cad Bane is like this generation's Boba Fett, right? He is the cool bounty hunter with cool gadgets who doesn't talk very much, who looks, imposing. We just saw him do a lot of shit and get away with it. He beats Obi-Wan and Anakin, or at least gets away, or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, he was a good villain.
Man, we get Cad Bane. We're never going to hear the end of it from Elkir.
So they, I was quite surprised to see the Sarlacc was still alive, but yeah, sure enough it was. But the way he killed it, well, actually Fennec killed it, was with the sonic mine that he used against Kenobi in episode 2. And when it dropped out, I was like, I put your hands over your ears.
Every Star Wars fan's favorite noise is that sonic mine for some reason. I mean, it sounds really awesome.
That was the level up sound in Galaxy, so I was used to hearing that all the time when entertainers and musicians were leveling up in the canteen. Just bow, bow.
Yeah.
I do want to say that I did totally call the return of a black chrysanthemum.
Yes, yeah.
We did.
We finally got to see some racial tensions between Wookiees and Trandoshans. It was good.
That was good.
That was a good scene. He was just sitting there simmering. He had to fuck up somebody.
It's like, I need to kill someone today. I feel him. I have those days. It's like, I just, who can I kill? I don't like those guys. I love the fact that, Jennifer Beals' character is just like, she's appealing, and like Fett is like, wow, she's really good with the words, and like he's watching her, and it's looking like they're talking him down, and then he just rips the arf off the Trandoshan, rips the arf right off, like. And I feel him because I feel Merida. I feel Merida would have bought, because I mean I do come from like Wookiees are my besties. I grew up with them, right? Is the whole thing for Merida. So,
Right.
I feel that Merida would be like, I get you, because I have gone back to cut their heads off. So I get you. Like, I feel that. Like, you could leave it, Merida. I'm like, I could. But
Having a bad day.
The Trando's arm is another little bit of proof that how much Filoni and Favreau love the old stuff. They're fans like us, because that's the Han Solo line. Wookiees tend to do that when they lose, right? To tear people's arms off. He's a Trando, yeah, he'll grow his arm back. You never get into a bar fight with Trandoshans because they regenerate so quick. So.
It's just inconvenient for him, really, more than anything else. Like, he didn't beat him with his own arm. That would have been.
My next note here is, I guess this. Oh yeah, this happened after they beat the Sarlacc. When Fett goes, "Next time, don't touch my buttons."
It was great.
He's very protective of his ship. I'm amazed. It must have been locked up tight. They couldn't have get into it for 5 years, because for it to sit there in the garage untouched for 5 years seems amazing to me.
Yeah. I loved Ming-Na when they're trying to actually get the fire spray out, and they're like trying to figure out how to get the gate up. And he's telling her, and she's like, I can't, I'm kind of busy. Like, what do you want me to do? And then she realizes she can shoot the part on the door. Yeah. And the look on her face, if you pause that, is a thing of beauty. She has the most satisfied, like, yeah, I fucking hit that look on her. Like,
that was my face.
Brilliant. It was amazing.
On my first mission, that was my face.
It's like, that's the best. It's the, yeah, I hit that.
She rolled a natural 20 right there.
She did. You could see it, but I'll see if I can find a screen capture of it, because it is the most perfect, like, fuck yeah.
There's a certain smug face that comes with the natural 20.
Yeah, it was perfect. It was just like, and I love the way she decided to stay.
Yeah, so casual. Yeah, all right.
Like, yeah, well, I see where you're going for your next stop. Like,
it reminded me of when we were kids in high school in the 90s, and someone would be like, I'm going to go over to North Sydney or something. You want to go? Yeah, I'll come for the ride. Same thing.
Oh, man, anytime. Yeah.
You want to go to Tim Hortons in Fedora? Fuck yes, I do. So one thing Courtney noticed in this is, and I noticed after she said it, was a lot of really cool classic Star Wars theatrical wipes, like the fades between scenes, doing that classic 70s. They're using a lot of that, and because it's on Tatooine, I didn't notice it right away, but it really does make it feel Star Warsy in that 70s sort of way.
Even the colors, like if you look at,
Mm-hmm.
they're all very brown, like that 70s sort of
Totally.
The brown and orange.
browns and oranges, and like
Mhm.
as opposed to like the Mandalorian was a lot more bluish, like
Yeah, I could see that.
colder, I
yeah, yeah.
guess.
The Vinzer blue.
Still waiting for my phone call, Favreau and Filoni. I'm here.
I actually noticed those wipes too, because I thought in my head, I'm like, those must be like a throwback to, vintage Star Wars. But then I thought, how lucky did they get that they could do such a cheap, easy transition through each thing because it's vintage like that.
Yeah.
They could
They
fucking,
didn't even have to
they
think
can-
about it.
they could just PowerPoint it.
Yeah, totally. Side swipe.
Back to the real world. Fett calls all the folks to dinner, then proceeds to scare the piss out of them with the Rancor.
He's
That was pretty
got a
awesome.
flair for the dramatic there. He didn't even flinch.
It was cool because he basically let the guy out that there was no Rancor, so all of his power was gone. So they're all like, there's no Rancor in there. And then all of a sudden, there's a Rancor.
So I'll get into the director stuff afterwards. So like the dinner was really cool. I'm surprised he accepted them basically going, "No, we don't want part of your war." Like I mean, he wants to govern with respect or whatever, I guess. So accepting the fact that they'll at least stay neutral was fine. But I was surprised. He took no for an answer, I guess.
Yeah, no one really died at that dinner, which was surprising. Though I feel like now, what was that, the 4th episode? Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, a lot of people are hating on this show, but I feel like the groundwork has now been done. The backstory gaps have been filled in. We've got a lot of answers. Now it's a question of what's he going to do next. But I feel like once he got out of that back tank and it was like, you're fully healed. And okay, fully healed, backstory's done. We've got the starts of his gang. I almost feel like in a way this show is now starting. In a way, you know what I mean? Even though there's only 3 episodes left.
I made a joke that if you recut this like you've done Mandalorian, do the whole thing in chronological order. Like do all the 5 years of desert first, and then get into the present day stuff.
I would like to watch it like that, actually.
Because I don't know, I'm torn, because on one hand, to me, the whole you're fully healed and don't need to sleep in the tank anymore probably means the end of flashbacks, and it's all going to be, from the present day from here out.
I think so too.
But at the same time, I'm like, okay, there's the little bit of Mandalorian music at the end when they're like, we should hire some help, and then the Mandalorian theme kind of plays for 3 or 4 seconds, and I'm like, that would set up a really good A-B plot for a 5th episode, because the A plot would be Boba and Fennec dialing up Mando, be like, "Hey bro, come help me out. There's credits for you." And I mean, that would set up Mandalorian season 3 really well, because we need to know what Din is off doing without Baby Yoda. And then the B plot would just be him tracking down the armor and finding out that Cobb Vanth had it, and then we could have that whole scene where he's spying on Mando with the binoculars at the end of episode 1/2, and then how he tracks Mando down to Tython and actually gets the armor back.
That is one last piece we would need to see, yeah. And here's the thing with the Mandalorian theme playing, like, I got as excited as anybody. I'm like, oh my god, will we see Din Djarin next episode? But here's the thing, as much fun as it would be to have him on the show, and I will be delighted if I see him, it worries me a little bit, because it makes it seem like we needed the other show to come in to save this show.
People say that, and I'm like, this isn't like a CW show that's shot during the season. Like, this stuff has been shot for weeks and months by now, right? So this was all planned out and filmed like 6 to 8 months ago. It's not like a show that shoots during the year, like a month ahead of its own episodes.
See, I don't think we're there yet. Like, I think we will get Mandalorians. I don't think we're just going to get Mando, because I think that now he has the Darksaber that theoretically he's king of the Mandalorians. So I think he will send people to help or convince, and I think you'll see maybe Bo too.
I think so too, but yeah, I think this would actually be a great way to introduce some new Mandalorians sent by Din and Bo, and then you could see those Mandalorians in season 3 of Mando, and then we already know them, and like, oh, it's those guys.
And then we connect. Yeah,
That's
I
fair.
think.
That's really
And
good.
I don't think you'll see it until, because I think personally, the way the flashback that we're missing, like I think they have to connect the Pikes. I think that is the last piece. I think we need to find out that the Pikes were behind that slaughter somehow. And then the Pikes are going to be in present day, and then the Pikes were from his past, and I think that has to collide
Right.
to be the point where it all comes to present day.
Next week, or this week's episode 5, will be directed by Bryce Dallas Howard.
Cool.
Who, for The Mandalorian, did the ATST episode as well as the first Bo-Katan episode. The only thing I didn't like about this episode was the when they sneak into the kitchen, chase the rat catching droid around did feel a little Disney, just a little bit. And I want to see a General Grievous cut of the chopping droid with lightsabers.
I'm pretty sure it's out there already.
Well, you know, the rat catcher actually reminded me of the rat Muppet, I think was
Rizzo.
the thing.
Well, that's
Yeah.
I said that while we were watching
droid
it.
before.
That's a cartoon droid, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've seen that droid before on Rebels, I think, and it's apparently quite prominent at like the Disney theme park.
Well, you're right, Cryus, that it was the droids that were making the food in the kitchen. You said that in a previous episode.
Yeah,
He did.
and he's like,
Slap
"Shing!"
I was scared to piss out of me. I would have left. Fuck it, keep the ship.
I had a note that I think that Jennifer Beals' character is now going to join the Mos Eisley Irregulars.
I think you're right.
Maybe she's like working on the side of the Pikes, but
She'd be like the
she is now.
she'd be like the noble class for the party, the talker,
I think so.
the Vander, only
I
prettier.
think so, because there had to be a reason that they had, like, he got to see her do that. You know what I mean? Like, it will make sense otherwise.
Fett made a point of saying how he had lots of credits, and it didn't really occur to me that, he's crawling out of the desert and he's down in his luck, but he's probably got a very fucking fat bank account that he's got access to, again, from years of bounty hunting, right? So he's like, yeah, money's no
You would
problem.
think so.
Makes sense.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, right? Like, what's he been spending
Remember
on?
my debit card number. It's like,
It's like-
a large pepperoni pizza and a large Coke.
And plus, like, we don't know what was left in the castle.
That's true, yeah. Jabba could have had a personal store. He's definitely got some money. Someone on Reddit, I think, posed the idea, or maybe it was Phoenix told me, but anyway, someone said they should do a young Fett story with Daniel Logan, the guy that played him as a kid, who still, I think, could really pull it off now, and he's got his own Fett suit of armor in real life, funnily enough. But if they did a show of that where he was just doing nothing but bounty hunting in the Rise of the Empire, I would still watch it. I like this character development, but I would still watch some of that early Fett shit.
Well, I would like to see, because I feel like the way they've been going with all the flashbacks is just said, we figure we're pretty much caught up, so it's just going to be present day. So they're obviously probably not going to go any farther back. So I would really like to see what happens from the time that he picks up his father's helmet. Like, to him being a Boba Fett. Like,
it could actually be used if they use the flashback type thing as a way to give backstory to a season. They could do that again, and if they ever do a season 2 of this with a new problem for the season, and it may be something from his past, then they could do more flashbacks with young Fett with Daniel Loy, and then you could have it both ways, and I think that would be fucking fantastic.
that would be cool. I would just like to know, now that we're getting the character development from him, now that we're seeing that he's not just this one-dimensional badass, like he likes animals and he wants to be respected more than he wants to be feared, and he had the whole thing where he was talking about the fact that he wanted to do this because he's tired of the man essentially like being the ones that get ahead off of their sweat kind of thing, like he's got all of this stuff. So I would like to see what happened in there that kind of helped form him as he is now.
Hey, we can all agree with the line that Boba dropped of "You can only get so far without a tribe."
Oh man, that rang pretty true. Courtney was dialing the lawyer for me at that point.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like,
researching.
Yep.
So I was reading up about the Tuscans because it really wasn't super clear which ones died. But the thing is that like you saw the gaffy stick of the young Tuscan, but apparently there was actually no sign of the body. It's super unclear about who you saw there. Like you saw all of the weapons, but they're meant to be hiding. Like they can hide in the sand better than anybody else.
I think some of them got away for sure.
I just wonder, like, it's still on Disney Plus, running. Like, I got how much of it is they just can't show dead kid.
Right.
So I wonder if they're trying to keep the visual body count down because of Disney. But like, but the one thing that I don't get with that is like he did have the gaffy stick, like I said, but he brought it out from under his robe when he threw it in the fire.
Where the hell are they finding these trees? That's what I want to know.
Really?
Yeah.
They go on their lizard quest and then they find the tree.
And congratulations, you get wood for your gaffy stick, and you supply the clan with firewood for 5 more days because they always have fires going. Where the fuck are they getting all the wood from?
Burning bantha shit. That's what they're doing.
I guess.
Probably. And then what are the banthas eating? As he's like looking at cooking the meat, and the bantha's like, "That looks delicious," and he's like, I'm eating another bantha just so you know right now, and he's like, "Nah, it looks really good." And then he throws it for him, and I'm like, I'm not comfortable with cow-like animals eating meat.
That's what I thought. I was like, that's like throwing a cow a steak. Like, what the?
Yeah, I'm like, I'm not good with this.
It's got a taste for blood. Look out! Bloodthirsty panther.
It's like,
Don't see.
Well, that's the whole
Man-eater.
thing. I'm like, generally we don't get milk from animals that eat meat. It's a thing. I don't know why it's a thing, but we're weird. But that was kind of my thing. I'm like, maybe, well, it's blue milk. I mean, I don't know. I guess it's fine. But he was like the most excited, like bantha in the whole world. Like his bantha tongue was like that was when I hit okay, the Muppets
Yeah.
right there. But I'm like, and he loved the bantha so much. But then he was like, "Go bantha, go!" And I'm like, "Can they just do that?" It's like, is that safe for the bantha?
Is that bantha gonna reappear and save his life?
I actually have a note. I'm like, will the bantha be back?
Maybe.
Fucking off, man. Out of there.
The bantha's gonna like stampede with its found family in like the last minute when they are like, "Man, we need the cavalry," and they just come over the hill. So I'm rewatching the scene, and you only see the chief, and they did show a lot of like bodies. They showed a lot of dead Tuscans, so I'm not sure if they were just trying to keep the body count down, but you actually don't see that many of them.
They generally don't show dead kids on Disney stuff. Like they try and minimize the peril to children within reason.
I wish they'd done that for our generation.
Right? Like, but if you watch like the end, it's actually different a bit now, but for a very long time, they never killed like a human. Like aliens would die. But they didn't really go around killing humans all that much.
I maintain that's why the whole CIS, like the Confederate Army, was droids, so that the Jedi could just go ham on them.
So they could kill them and still be good guys. And still be good guys. That's the whole thing, right? I'm wondering whether, I don't know. It's like with Omega, right? Like we'd see her in kind of peril, but you wouldn't see her like dead Omega. Right. We'd know she was alive.
Tied up Omega.
It's just.
My bantha thing is that it's the end of episode 7. The Mos Eisley irregulars have defeated the Pikes or beaten them off of Tatooine or whatever, but like they're fucking tuckered out or whatever, and Boba's just kind of lying passed out on the sands because the fight took place outside of Mos Espa in the desert for some reason, and Boba Fett's lying there on his back in the sand without his helmet on because of course he's not wearing his helmet. And he's like, "Oh fuck me, I hurt so badly," and then it just pans to the left, and the bantha's just there. It just gives him a big ol' lick up the face, and then
Bantha lick.
the scene ends.
I feel like that's a solid prediction.
That Bantha-ton.
Yeah,
Like it's that Lord of the Rings scene where the horse goes down and picks what's his name up on the river.
Right.
Yeah. Or I don't know if any of you have watched Avatar: The Last Airbender, but the protagonist has a giant bison as an animal pet, and he frequently just goes and just licks him up right up the front. It's just really funny.
I have had my face licked by a cow, and I have to tell you, don't recommend.
Ew.
I bet.
Yeah.
Don't recommend. When I was a kid, we had dairy cattle all around where I lived, and I had this hat. I don't know why I was wearing this hat outside playing, but I was, and it was a straw hat, and it had a ribbon on it. And the cow wanted the ribbon, and they went in for the hat, and then he just like, wah.
Oh, yuck, man.
They're very drooly. They're very drooly.
Oh, that ruined me.
Yeah, no, it's very drooly.
4 episodes in now, we've kind of got more of a feel for Fett and who he is, and backstory, blah blah blah. But what's interesting to me is the way he keeps talking, the very slow, deliberate way. But he says things like, "You only live because I deem it so." Like, who talks like that?
And I feel like that's why Tamura is. I think he's frustrated because, I mean, let's face it, he started as Boba Fett without line. Like, he didn't
20 years
plan
ago,
on like acting. Like, it wasn't his goal. He was like in a suit and he did a thing and that was it. So I think that, I mean, he's not an amazing actor. Bless him. Like, he's great and he's stoic and he's right. Like, he is Boba Fett. But Shakespearean actor he is not. He is not like Patrick Stewart.
I'm surprised they're even trying it, because this is an old thing in Star Wars, George Lucas dialogue, and I don't know if they're doing it to kind of a little homage to him. But Harrison Ford said it when they were giving Lucas that lifetime achievement. He says, "George, you can type this shit, but you can't say it." That's a great special, if only to see Carrie Fisher go out and says, "Hello, I'm Mrs. Han Solo, and I'm an alcoholic. I'm an alcoholic because George Lucas ruined my life," and he's just sitting there laughing.
It's like, ha ha ha, she's serious.
Yeah. You pull on your collar, you're like
I miss Carrie Fisher. Okay, time for a little rant of the week. So as you heard these last few shows, there's a lot we love about Book of Fett and some stuff we're not so stoked about, and that's fine. But every time I go on Reddit or Twitter, I usually see a clickbait title along the lines of "Star Wars has ruined Boba Fett and my childhood is destroyed by this." Toxic fan base is present in everything, but Star Wars fans really take the cake in my book. And again, I say this being an 80s kid now in his 40s who grew up thinking Fett was cool and absorbing any of the books or media of the old canon I could find. I've had a Fett helmet on my shelf for as long as some of you have been alive. I had an idea of Fett built up in my head, same as everyone, some of which is being dashed away by this show, but at least in some details, the basic idea of him being the badass is still pretty firmly entrenched, and that still applies, I think. But even with the stuff that didn't match my headcanon, I can say what I didn't do was spew out reams of clickbait crap written, and I use that term loosely, about how a show that hasn't even completed its run is so terrible. And you can think it's terrible, I don't care. My problem is that these days, it's never enough to go online and say, "I didn't like this thing." They have to go around finding anyone that does like it and vomit the same shit over and over again. I don't like it, so I gotta fuck it up for you too. No one cares, man. Maybe what you need to do is take a look at yourself and see why a woman lead in a Star Wars movies bothers you so much, or that a guy like Fett can actually develop a personality that makes sense for a guy with his trauma. If what they're doing with the character doesn't match up to your very specific set of headcanon and it's all ruined for you, well, you could try to be open to it and maybe grow a little, or if you're set on not liking something, that's cool too. But as several great Flinns have said, why don't you just fuck off? This is Vinzer Flinn, the King of the North, signing off.